Streaming. There we go. So the stream has started, and we are on YouTube. Woo! Let's see here. So I got that set up. I got stuff set up. I need now to tweet this out so that people.
It looks like I never actually hit the send button to Brian. So now, Brian, you're gonna have the show notes.
Cool.
Okay.
All right. There's the Twitter button. I was looking for that button. PTM 104.
As much as we pretend to be like smart, we still will struggle with a piece of technology from time to time.
No kidding.
Particularly me.
Well, I can understand all about that.
Yeah, I think Brian, you're closer to our age. I think.
I'm 35. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you're right. You're probably right in between Rusty and me. Rusty's going to turn 35, another month or so?
Yeah, in like less than a month, 16th of next month.
And I turned 36 back in February.
And I'll be 36 in September, so I'm not too far behind you.
Oh yeah, so you're right around this. You're in our era. Like we're the the north end of the millennials that don't want to be called millennials.
Oh man, and we're getting called youngins by the crowd so far. What's up, Ashley, Marianne, Lori, Mick? And Roger, what's up, dude?
Roger's Diamond.
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, it's funny because I always say it when people are like, millennial, and technically we qualify because that's like 81 through whatever.
Well, they say like it's as far back as 77, depending on who's writing the definition.
Yeah, it's a weird thing because I grew up, when I think of millennial, I'm thinking of like people on their cell phones and Facebook and all that, and I'm like,
that's right. Man,
I grew up with a record player. Like that was what I used.
Oh, my dad had reel-to-reel.
I had my own record player, yeah, and a tape deck and all this. Maybe we just didn't have
the play school for kids plastic
as a record player.
Record player.
For me.
Yeah.
But I would say I had cassette tape decks, and when CD players come out, I had to switch everything over to CDs. So, that's. I understand.
Yeah. So and Facebook didn't come out till I was done with college. So it's like, all right, well, it was kind of a novelty to me, not really as much as a. Like, I don't know.
That's right.
Or MySpace. Does anybody remember MySpace?
Man.
I had this conversation with my Lyft driver on the way down here. We talked about that. I had a MySpace and a Facebook because Rusty actually graduated from college before I did, even though he's younger. But, yeah, I had both, like, because I had a pingable.edu address when Facebook first hit Georgia Tech. But I had to have MySpace because I had all these friends that weren't in college.
Oh yeah. So I don't know. It's like I don't identify with that. But if you want to call me that, fine. Whatever. Maybe I'll help even out the edges. Bring the average.
Yeah, we have
down.
somebody new I hadn't recognized
Roger,
before.
8-track
Matt
player.
DiBenedetto fan. We got a DiBurrito fan following on the old YouTuber there.
Yeah. Is MySpace still up? So I just heard recently that MySpace, they're trying to kind of relaunch it. The guy who, something about like the guy who owns it, I think he sold it and then bought it back or something like that.
Yeah, well, Tom, the guy that was like sort of the spearhead, the focus head, he actually works for Facebook now.
Oh, go figure.
That's what I heard anyway. I cannot confirm that on, I would not bet my reputation against that. But that's what I heard.
Well, Sherwin, you ready to do this?
Why not?
Mr. Keselowski, are you ready to roll?
I sure am.
All right. So let me make sure I have everything that I need to do here before I mess up. I think I'm good. So here we go. When I hit record, we will be, like I said, we'll just be hooting and hollering and all that stuff. So you'll know when it's time.
That's some redneckery that happens.
Yeah, it gets so crazy. All right. Here we go. Recording now. The PETM podcast is sponsored by you. That's right. Go to patreon.com/PETM and join the What You Drinking Club for as little as $1 a month and get your free koozie, y'all. Best part is every cent in 2017, we're donating to sponsored drivers. So join the PETM posse today. Be a part of the sport you love. Now, this week's show is brought to you by our official sponsors at the $5 and up per month level. That's Catherine Kingston, Ashley Stang, Jeffrey Whitler, Mark Wiley, Craig Smulders, Rick Hamacher, Lori Sutton, Mick Rose, Tony Salt, Colby McClam, Eric Kepner, Ryan Kiefer, Marianne Levesque, Patrick Cleary, Jeff Brown, and Harry Bolsjonia. Let's do this. Welcome, y'all! That's right. This is the Pregame Engineer Tailgate Mayor Racing Podcast, episode number 104 for Thursday, June 20th, 2017. I'm Tailgate Mayor Rusty Wallace, joining the PTM Podcast studio, Pregame Engineer Andrew Sherwin. What's up, dude?
Fresh off of our awesome trip down to Atlanta Motor Speedway and Thursday Night Thunder, we're back in the studio, and we have a really fun, interesting guest. I think everybody's going to really enjoy hearing talk.
The pre-show already has been fun, exciting. Stories have been told. Things are happening. It's fun as hell so far. Let's get right into it. And before we do, you already mentioned it, but let's give one more shout out to Atlanta Motor Speedway for hosting us.
Brad Harrison.
Whoa, Brad Harrison of Atlanta Motor Speedway just really made it a VIP experience for us, and we can't tell them how awesome that was. So thank you again. But that brings us to tonight's episode, dude. We got a guest on. You've already said it. Really excited about this. Driver, owner of Brian Keselowski Motorsports, owner of BKN Speed Shop, and older brother. We had to mention that.
He has a younger brother.
He has a younger brother, some other Keselowski. Brian Keselowski is with us today. What's up, Brian?
Hey, man. How you guys doing?
Oh, we're doing great. Having a ball talking already. So we're ready to do this with the record button mashed. So we'll see what happens there. Brian,
let's do it.
We start the thing off every time the same way. What you drinking today?
Lemonade. Does that make any sense?
Lemonade.
It's freaking North Carolina, man. It's hot here.
It is
lemonade.
Yeah, some lemonade just before dinner here. So it all worked out fine. But from what I hear, everybody usually says water. So I'll go with lemonade.
There you go.
Country time or some other kind?
I'm trying to think. What the heck it is? It's simply lemonade.
The good stuff. Okay. Yeah,
Simply
I like that
brand.
stuff.
Yeah, it's good stuff, man. You can't go bad.
All right.
This is the Brian Keselowski
You want to get the
household.
cheap stuff
Don't
when it
even,
comes there.
yeah, don't mess. Sherman, what are we drinking?
Well, I stole some of your booze while you were still trying to get everything set up.
Yeah, it was a bit of a mad rush for me
Ginger
today.
ale and Jim Beam Black, courtesy of the Rusty Wallace liquor cabinet.
Yeah. But what else? You brought something else for us, right?
Oh, man, I'm goofing off. I had fun all weekend. Anybody that's paid attention on the Twitter or the Instagram saw it. So Zima has been re-released by Miller Coors.
Okay.
And, this is the beverage. And this is not a suggestion for those of you out there that may be questioning your adulthood. But Zima was something we used as a bridge to beer. And specifically for me, Miller Lite fits well. But, yeah, I got some Zimas. It's like adult Sprite. It's kind of fun.
I remember drinking that. I'm not going to say when because that might, if you do the subtraction, it might
incriminate yourself. Is there a statute of limitations?
Yeah, right. What am I allowed to go with here? But I remember that.
I was 17 the first time I had a Zima. How about that? I'll just say it.
Just go for it. Perfect. Brian, when was your first Zima?
I don't think anybody's coming to arrest you on that one. I can tell you that. I think you're just fine on statute of limitations.
All right, good. Thankfully.
When was your first Zima, Brian?
I can't say that I've ever had a Zima. I do remember when they come out. I don't remember when they were canceled, but I can't say that I can say I had one of those. So I'm going to say never, but maybe I'll have to try it now that everybody's talking it up so much. Huh?
Well, I think what you're saying is you're more manly than me, and that's okay. That's fine.
I have a funny story.
I didn't go that far
about Zima.
That's not how far I went.
So we were all sitting around one day, and somebody busted out a Four Loko, that 12% stuff with all. And this was back when it had all the stuff. Yeah, when it had all the uppers and the downers and everything in it. And somebody busted out a bunch of them, and one of the guys said, "Oh, give me that Zima crap. I'll drink it." And he drinks the whole thing.
That was actually a tilt. But
making fun of us. Yeah, tilt, whatever it was, all of that same crap. But he said, "Give me that Zima, I'll drink that." And he didn't realize that this wasn't like a 4.8% Zima. This was a 12%, 24-ounce drink.
Yes.
He downed the whole thing, and he did not make it out that night when we went out.
No, he didn't. Not only did he not make it out, but he threw hot wings on the floor at like 5 p.m.
It got a little crazy. So Brian, tell us what you're up to now. You've got a new venture, helping teams go fast. You're doing all kinds of stuff. Tell us what you're doing, and how's that going?
Well, for lack of a better word, it's a speed shop type deal. I bought a chassis dyno and a pull-down rig. The chassis dyno is actually the one that NASCAR used to bring to the racetrack and test like all the Cup cars and trucks and Xfinity cars on. And they've gotten away from that because they can do a lot of that at their tech center now. So that became available through another guy that had bought it before, and I decided that I was going to try my hand at actually making money for once instead of spending it. As a racer, I've always been really good at spending money. So, these type of tools are the type of tools that the big-time guys get to use. So I'm trying to offer it to guys, maybe some lower-tier Xfinity or truck guys, but more towards like late models and modified, maybe even some dirt cars, things like that. And it's starting to pick up a little here and there. It's not taking off, obviously, as much as you always want it to, but it's doing okay. So we're doing that a little bit on the side. We're doing some bodies like for the ARCA series and things like that. But I'm not trying to get really big into doing a body business because that's really hot and cold, and I don't really want to get involved where I hire 10, 15 people at my shop. So, but as it goes, I'm trying to be there. I'm getting a chance to work side by side with my dad all the time, so that's cool. And I don't have to go work for somebody else, so I get to make my own hours, and it's a good deal.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I'm going to interject here because we tend to ad-lib quite a bit with our show, which is why our show sheet is half a page. But so if you've got a quick like Bob Keselowski story in the shop, I know our listeners would love to hear from the eyeballs of Brian. Just tell us one quick Bob Keselowski story.
Well, let's see. How about like 1970 Talladega?
Oh, sure,
sure. I know I wasn't alive then, but he likes to tell that story. There's a picture floating around somewhere out there of my dad, my uncle, and my grandfather working on an engine on the back tailgate of their pickup truck at Talladega. And the story on that is they blew up in practice, which is probably what you're going to hear 9 times out of 10 because they always blew up a motor. But so they blew up and didn't have an engine. Harry Hyde was working, I believe, for maybe the 71 team or something at the time. It would have been the high-dollar Dodge team, and had a short block, which is basically an engine without the heads, heads intake, things like that. And he said, well, I have a short block, and I'll sell it to you guys. I was like, okay, great. We can just use our heads on that motor, and that'll be fine. Well, it's back in Charlotte. Well, this is 1971. They don't have – they're not all built. It's not like it is today where you can just jump on. So it took a long time, but they drove all the way back to Charlotte, got the short block, and drove all the way back to Talladega and put it all together on the back of the pickup truck and went out and raced.
Wow.
So that's a quick little Bob Keselowski, actually Keselowski racing story. So, yeah. Well, they were there, that's for sure. And that first race in 1969, they were there. They ran that race.
That's awesome. That's exactly the kind of thing we were hoping you would have a nugget about. That's really cool.
We've said it here before because we've gone through drivers in the Cup Series who I would say made it the old-fashioned way. We've talked about that before, and only a handful really come to mind. And the Keselowski clan is always high on that list, just in terms of making it happen for themselves. Is that something that you kind of are aware of when you're looking around at everything going on in NASCAR? That hey, we built this, and we have obviously brother being a championship driver and all that, but is that something that you think about sometimes and take pride in?
Sometimes I don't. It's not something that we just have to push out there and say, we were part of this for however long. And, a lot of guys like to get out there and say, well, we've been in NASCAR for 15 years. And okay, well, my dad and my uncle have been in it since 1968. So, and really earlier than that with my grandfather's cars. So the Keselowskis have been in NASCAR since the late 50s, early 60s. So, and that's not something that it's really maybe out there and people don't realize. And I'm not going to say we're along the same lines as the Pettys or the Wood brothers or nothing like that, but back then they obviously didn't even run all the races. They didn't run great. They were still learning how to go racing. They didn't understand it. So, but we've been involved in it really since just about the beginning. So, you look around and say, my grandfather ran Daytona in 1968 and Talladega in 1969 and Poconos when they first come out, and my uncle won a USAC race in Pocono in 1974, which obviously isn't NASCAR, but they've got experience at these places. We've been around for quite a while. So when Brad first came in, maybe not so much now, but when he first came in, a lot of people didn't really give him or really our family credit. They thought he was just some snot-nosed kid that came in and, didn't really belong. Well, that's not really true. We've been here since 1950s, so that's not really fair to say either. So, yeah, I definitely think that not just NASCAR, but all around racing, we've been in it for a long time and definitely paid our dues.
That's a really cool history lesson right there. I love that. And speaking of Wood Brothers that you dropped in there, Sherwin, that hat is pretty fantastic.
Yeah, so there was a lot of bandwagon talk about Blaney winning and people saying, well, I'm getting on that.
Yeah.
And, there was a lot of negative talk about, so you want to jump on with a winner, and it's like, I don't understand that in a lot of ways because NASCAR is so much different than other sports because it's non-regional for the most part. And, I mean, the reality is I think it's awesome. Blaney's personality is awesome. I listen to his podcast. I've followed what he's been doing for 5 years now, just like I have Chase for 10.
Yep.
And so he won. I bought a hat. Whatever. I flipped my couch. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's good for NASCAR.
That's
that's one thing I've never understood is, okay, yeah, you have some bandwagon fans sometimes here and there. That's fine. But, when a driver does good and you support that driver, who cares when they got on? There's a badge of honor that I was a fan of his 10 days before you were a fan of his. Who cares? It's just part of it. It's part of racing. And, hey, there's a new guy on the scene, and he's running well. So I'm a fan of it. What's the big deal?
Well, if you're rooting for somebody that's racing in NASCAR, that means you're a fan of NASCAR, and I can't see that as being a bad thing.
Sure, and I like the way Brian put it. Supporting that person is what you're doing, and not necessarily jumping on bandwagon. And if you want to say bandwagon, heck, I think this is one of the funnest bandwagons to have been on in a long time. I mean, think about the Wood Brothers. Oh, you're jumping on the Wood Brothers bandwagon, the one that's been here for 70 years.
I mean, you'd have to be 90 years old.
They've only been original bandwagoner. 51. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, sorry to walk over you there, Brian. I mean, you would have to been all in on NASCAR on day one
to be
the original Wood Brothers fan. Why don't we just celebrate the fact that a team that went damn near defunct is now competitive week to week? That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. So brings us to the driver number, episode number 104. So driver number 4. A lot of drivers to talk about. Sure, when these low numbers are just popular in the Cup
those
Series.
Single digits are so popular.
Yeah. So most races, John Sears, 289 races, no wins. He was known as Big John Sears, drove a salmon-colored number 4 car that he personally owned. So kind of some
can I call you a liar? That doesn't sound true.
It doesn't sound true, but it's cool that we have a driver owner here on the show, and Big John Sears was driver owner right there. He finished 5th in points, back-to-back, 67 and 68. Passed away in 1999, so hats off, Mr. John Sears.
We'll have a little sip there.
And I'll tell you what, hats on, Rex White, dude. 168 races and 26 of his career 73 wins were in the number 4 car. How about that?
Rex White will show up all over the place if you let him.
One of NASCAR's 50 greatest drivers, 1960 champion, 87 years old to not today, but as of today.
You want to know some really fun trivia?
What's that?
So I was getting a haircut on, I guess it was Thursday. Whatever day I went home last week that wasn't Sunday because I went home twice.
Yeah.
Well, Thursday because we went to Atlanta Motor Speedway before you got there. And I'm getting my hair cut in Fayetteville, Georgia. And I see across the room there's a picture of a car that's obviously vintage. Mm-hmm. And it's wearing a number 4. And I said, I'm a big NASCAR fan. Who's that in that picture? And said, oh, that's Rex White. He comes in here every now and get his hair cut. I think he won the championship 61 or something. And I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I forgot to take a picture of it because I was miffed.
Yeah,
but that's the guy.
That's the guy. That's awesome.
He lives in Fayetteville, Georgia, where I grew up.
That's a very cool story. Oldest living Hall of Fame inductee at age 85 in 2015. I don't know if there's been an older one since, but that was the stat on that.
Sure.
So pretty cool. You had a Sterling Marlin quote here, too.
I don't even remember whose podcast it's on, but it's in like the intro of somebody's show, and it's my favorite Sterling Marlin quote. It's from sometime in the late '90s. It said, he got wrecked out, and the reporter obviously asked him, "Well, so what did you see from your perspective?" He said, "I got wrecked by a bug-eyed dummy, I guess."
Wrecked in that number
in Western Tennessee fashion.
Do you remember who that was?
No, I don't. I hope you do.
I'm almost pretty sure it was Lake Speed.
Lake Speed.
I'm like 95% sure it was Lake Speed.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I remember watching that race. I remember him saying that. I just cannot 100% tell you, but I'm 95% sure it was Lake Speed.
That's cool.
That's awesome. So, other notables: Kevin Harvick, obviously, 123 races, 12 wins. Ernie Irvan drove that car, 7 of his wins and 105 races.
That's right. Before you went to Robert Yates.
Yeah, Bobby Hamilton, the legend, 101 races with 1 win. Yep, hats off, Bobby Hamilton.
Hats off, Bobby.
And Casey Kane, that one season in that Red Bull car, dude, trying to bring it home for us too as fans. So 36 races, that one win at Phoenix. Yes, sir. Win. Oh, that was beautiful. That might have been the first time I flipped my couch. Actually, was been that win? I think it was when that number 4 come across the stripes. So that was first time I flipped my couch for a Casey Kane win, I should say.
Oh goodness, yeah. Wow.
So there it is, Brian. Any notable 4s that we've missed that you know about?
Well, okay, so not in the Cup Series, but I remember number 4 going for a long time in the Xfinity Series with that Biaggi-Denvesti team. Mike Wallace drove it. He won some races like Daytona and stuff like that. The 4 truck with Bobby Hamilton, I believe maybe 2004 champion. It was a year or two before he died there.
Yeah.
And he owned the 4 truck for a long time in the Truck Series, so... trying to think who would be the 4 after that. Well, obviously right now the 4 had run maybe last year or so. It was with Kyle Busch's truck, so there was a couple guys, maybe Eric Jones won in the 4 truck.
And Chris Bell is running it now.
Yeah.
He's got a couple wins.
So it's been around for a while.
Yeah, that number 4 car, truck, everything, man. It's doing it to it. Sherwin, it's time to tear it down. You ready?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, let's tear this thing down. We didn't physically go, but we went to Michigan. NASCAR went to Michigan. Yeah. Talk to us about it, Sherwin.
Well, if we just start with the Cup side, because to me it's as exciting as you could hope for, is Larson getting his second win this season, his 3rd straight win at a 2-mile racetrack. Like, it's something magical about Michigan and Fontana, though we expect him to win at other racetracks as well. But obviously he likes the ones where you go stupid fast into turn 1.
Yeah. You got to slow it down for that high line, too, that he likes to run. So, Brian, what's your take on this race?
On the Michigan race, so, that place hasn't been the same since they repaved it, has it? So,
Proof.
Mm-hmm.
I wish they would be able to work the groove out a little wider. That'd be nice.
Why did they only run the monster
Michigan
in
race,
the main groove?
Michigan's going to race. That's just how the racetrack is right now. So
yeah,
I think some people are expecting more out of it than it possibly can do. I mean, are we expecting short track races at a speedway where everybody's bunched up in a little pack and wrecking each other? It's probably not going to happen. What do we have? 1 wreck all day? That was when Danica got swung out there on the backstretch. So it's just part of racing right now. That's how it is.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
Sherman, what were you saying? 1 groove?
Yeah, sorry, I walked over the top of you a little bit there, Brian. But they made a commitment to the tire dragging, but they only dragged the groove that we already race in. So what was NASCAR thinking by doing that? And I'm not asking, Brian, I'm not asking you to tell us what NASCAR was thinking, because nobody knows. I mean, I've listened to all the shows up to this point. I can't wait to hear Nate Ryan discuss it tomorrow. But Junior was saying the same thing as T.J. Majors and Brett Griffin, where it's like, why did we tire drag in the lane that we already race? Mm-hmm. The whole point is to widen the groove.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why did we do that? It just seems silly.
Well, I can't speak for that, and I can't speak for NASCAR actually making that call. Maybe that's the track's call or something. I don't know. Sometimes, this is just sometimes, if you put a lot of rubber in a certain groove, that groove actually loses, some grip because it gets rubber packed on top of it, and you actually have to start searching. So maybe they thought that was the right. I don't understand. I have not been a huge fan of the tire dragging thing because race cars do way better job. They just do a way, way better job. So you just got to get race cars on the racetrack. The problem is it's never going to widen out until the race cars make them widen out. It's just like if you watch the ARCA race on Friday, they run a single lane, and then usually the Xfinity race or truck race will widen out a little bit, and then the next race widens out. And by the time they run Cup, they'll run 4 lanes. Well, I mean, it's not happening at Michigan right now, but that's just usually part of it. So, I don't know. I think you just need to get race cars on the racetrack, and I think that's the only thing that's going to fix that.
Yeah, so I'm totally with you on that. And so I'll ask you this as a former competitor and now essentially a speed engineer for the sport is how expensive or how prohibitive would it be for NASCAR to make the very first practice into a test session where, the top 25 in points or whatever have to be on the track at the same time or something along those lines so that you get to see this experience happen and the exposure to the track, to the cars?
Well, they sort of kind of do that with tire tests, but they don't have as many cars. The only thing I can equate that to would be the tire test for Daytona when they first paved it back in 2010, like the December of 2010. I was actually at that test, so I can tell you that. But that's the only time I've ever really remembered them kind of requiring everybody to go out and run in a big pack and go run because they just wanted laps on the track. Just go out and make laps. They gave everybody free tires. They gave us like 5 or 6 sets of tires and just go out and make laps. We're not here for you to make changes. We're here for you to run the racetrack in and see what we need to do. Well, okay, so I thought that was actually a pretty interesting thing. And a lot of times in tire testing, that's what they do. Like you get maybe a set or 2 of tires in the morning, and they say, all right, go make the changes and do what you need to do to make your car run okay. But they're not there for you to make a bunch of changes. They're there for their tire deal. But they're talking 4 or 5 cars, not 30, not 35. They're talking 4 or 5 cars. They're going to go out and run, and they're never usually ever in a group. They're just out there making laps by themselves. And it always a varying speed of how fast they're going and what they're doing, So I think that would be really good that maybe if you put a lot of cars and kind of force them into going out there and running hard, what would that do to it? And that's a good possibility that could actually work. Maybe cone off the bottom. I've seen short tracks do that before, where like South Boston, they repaved that track this year. In practice, they'll cone the bottom groove off the racetrack, and you can't run there. You have to run up high.
Yeah,
so
I saw that
that's
too.
An interesting thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, and what's ironic about this is that at Michigan right now, the groove is actually like a half a car length up from the bottom, and like the main.
Well, there's a reason for that. It's the design of the racetrack. Actually, the very bottom groove is flatter. Let me rephrase that. Flatter.
The banking shallows out.
Yeah. So I have not raced on the new track since they paved it. I haven't been involved in a series where I've actually driven there yet. But I did a lot of ride-along stuff with like the Rich Petty driving experience. And when you go out there and drive, you noticeably know that it's a different banking. Like you can physically feel it. You can feel the transition in between the very bottom groove and the second groove. But like difference between Michigan and Kansas have that same thing where the very bottom lane of the racetrack have kind of 2 distinct different grooves. But in Kansas, the third lane all the way up at the very top has another distinct different groove, whereas Michigan really doesn't have that. So I think that's kind of where Kansas has widened out in the last 2 or 3 years since the repave. Michigan really hasn't, and I think maybe that's a good reason why.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Sure, we're changing subjects here a little bit. I have never seen the NASCAR community come together like it did this week to completely blast something, which was that USA Today. They came out. I was laughing my butt off.
It was destruction.
Oh my
from
goodness!
Every angle of NASCAR,
Yeah.
whether you were a driver, whether you were a team owner, whether you were a fan, whether you were an actual fellow journalist.
Yeah,
just ripped this guy.
Yeah,
wide open.
I tell you what, Jeff.
Nick Swanson, is that his name?
It doesn't matter.
Detroit Free Press.
Yeah, and Jeff Gluck leaves USA Today, and now we get this. Brian, did you catch that article?
Yes, I did. And I actually, as soon as I seen it come out, and my brother and I think Kyle Larson said something about it, I read it, and I knew that wasn't going to go over well with some people, especially when the drivers kind of blasted it right away. But I was actually surprised that so many people kind of went so hard on the guy, because he actually had a few good points. He just did it in a really bad way. And it's like, wow. And boy, once a few drivers pile on, then all the fans pile on too. And it got really ugly there for a while.
Yeah, I think he mixed up his order. And the reality is, I think a lot of what he said it's not false. He didn't tell lies.
Right.
But he approached it so terribly.
Right,
yeah,
right.
The approach was horrible.
The headline pretty much being, nobody cares. or what was it? Kyle Larson is not the face of what NASCAR or whatever it was, and it's like, dude, we flip couches. Going back to that, are you serious?
And
this
was
not awesome.
Not just that. There was like a totally different, just a personal outlet that was like ripping on Kyle because his cars are fast now. I'm like, you realize, dude won a sprint car race on Wednesday and then won a cup race on Sunday. And I didn't know yet that he was going to win Monday night in another open-wheel dirt race. Like, the dude is a rock star race car driver.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess it's interesting to look at the headline versus the merit of what happened. I just was laughing just at how the community really came together. People who maybe are not on as friendly terms with each other, just high-fiving in getting behind something. Which maybe this is an overall positive in a weird
and defense of the sport.
way.
We all come together on a similar topic.
Yeah. So you know what? Thank you, Nick. Maybe I'm not sure.
Maybe he was just trolling. I don't know. Maybe it was an accident.
Yeah. No telling. We've got some questions for Brian. So Brian Frank Villette, at Frank Villette, he asks, I think this is a great question too, by the way, especially to ask somebody like you, what and in the current state of the sport. But what's the best way to raise a number of teams that are entered each week, and what's the best way to make that happen?
Well, okay. So currently, and I know a lot of people want to argue this, but currently, obviously, NASCAR feels like in the Cup Series, I'm not going to talk about Xfinity or trucks yet, but in the Cup Series, 36 cars is their number. That's what they want in the show, because they are pretty much guaranteed that 36 cars are going to show up every week. The open cars are not really their problem anymore. They don't need them, but they're basically there to still have that open, like anybody could put a car together and come race NASCAR type thing and at least get a shot at qualifying, right? Mm-hmm. They're still giving you that shot of it's still an open thing, but it's not really important for them. So, okay, so they have 36 cars. Well, they have 36 to 37 cars every single week. If you want more than that, you're going to have to pay them more, because there's no way that these teams are going to be able to run without sponsorship. It's just not possible. So that's the long end of the story there. You have to pay them more if you want more cars to show up. I don't foresee that happening. So that's an issue. No different than Wood Brothers last year. They were an open car and they had a sponsor and they could run. But let me tell you what, it's a whole lot more helpful to them to have a charter this year, and it pays a lot better too.
Mm-hmm. And it feels like there's some
Xfinity and trucks are a different story. It still requires money also, but the business side of that is completely different than the Cup side, because of how little they get paid versus how much they're going to spend. Obviously, it's all just numbers in the end. Money fixes everything, but where's the money going to come from?
Yeah,
it's a good point.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to parallel is, you talk about the money in the Cup Series, but yeah, it is the and the folks that we talk to in the series, it's always money, money, money. That's what we hear. Scraping up that money, talking to the sponsors and all that, and getting out there just one more race. Getting that next race in, and it's that looking to the next race, not necessarily looking for, well, we're going to have a great season. We've got this sponsor hooked on forever. It doesn't matter. Just gobs of money being thrown at us. It's always getting to that next racetrack, getting the tires, getting the fuel, getting the chassis, getting the motor, getting all the pieces put together, and every one of them is people with their hands out, and not a whole lot of people have cash in those hands throwing it to you. So,
and it seems to have gotten worse over the years, not better, right? So, and the racing purses have honestly, what we get paid every week, have gone down the last, I don't know, maybe 10 years since the heyday of everything. So all the purse money has gone down, while all the costs have skyrocketed up. So, there's nowhere we have to try to meet back in the middle somewhere there, because it's just not possible to do anymore. I can say I'm going to say 2009, the average starting purse for a Xfinity, I guess it was nationwide then, average starting purse was like $18,000, not counting all the little special bonuses you could get. Well, now it's like 12 or 14.
Oh, wow.
And everything has skyrocketed for the price of everything. The chassis are more expensive, the bodies are more expensive, tires are more expensive, engines, the parts to put on, everything is absolutely more expensive, but the price that we get paid every week is down. So how are you supposed to bridge that gap? That would be, we got to somehow come close to bridging that gap a little better, or it's going to kill everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we talked about this with Tommy Joe Martins, in that the minimum purse for starting and however you finish a race ought to at least cover your tire expenditure. So however you structure the payout versus what it costs to buy the tires, like if you can't show up and buy enough tires to complete a race with last place purse, like that system feels like, I don't know, maybe it's broken, because you're already spending so much money to build the truck, pay the team, pay the pit crew, travel.
If the pit crew's paid in that series, for that matter.
Yeah, and that the tires are just one more expenditure. You're already going to put wear on your motor, so you have depreciation on your motor, whether it's 100% or some partial percentage. Like the last place purse ought to at least pay for 2 or 3 sets of tires.
Craig Smolders.
Well, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
The tires themselves. Since I put my own nationwide. Well, it was Busch Series, I guess. Then in 2007, I went and ran places like Memphis and Michigan and a couple different tracks that year with my own team. And I can remember my tire bill, like $1,600 a set, somewhere in that range, right? Well, now they're almost $2,400 a set.
Yep.
And that was 10 years ago. But the price has gone down, or the amount of money that we get has actually gone down. So how is that supposed to work out, right, for those kind of guys? And what attracts somebody to want to come and spend that kind of money and just lose all the time? You can't possibly expect a businessman to come in and just flat out lose money every day. That's not going to work out. No businessman worth their salt is going to do that.
Do you think that when this TV contract expires, things are going to change dramatically in terms of money and what we see? Will that translate on track that a ton like that?
Honestly, man, and I really hate to say it this way, I say no. I think it could get worse. Only because if we're not attracting big money to the series, like if we're not having good attendance ratings, if we're not having good, TV ratings, things like that, how are you going to warrant the TV, paying you $4 billion for a 5-year contract or whatever the number is? I don't even remember what the number is, but how's the TV going to come to you? Who's going to pay for that? Why would one of the TV networks do that? And I think it's not just a NASCAR problem. That's any problem for any big major sport. If you do not have attendance or ratings on TV, how do you get Fox or NBC or ABC, anybody, to give you that kind of money. And that's, I think, something everybody's going to fight.
Yeah, absolutely. With the sweetheart deal they have now, and that's exactly what I'm getting at is, obviously the next TV deal, unless something drastic changes here soon, is going to be significantly less, and there's going to be less money coming in. I'm curious how that's going to translate. If they're going to say, well, we got to still make the same amount of money that we used to make, so we're going to charge everybody way more, and then it becomes even more expensive, or if they're going to take a look at things and say, we got to cut costs around the board or across the board or whatever. Oh, well, I guess we'll see.
I think it's interesting that
I think what you'll see is you're going to have to see some major changes happen in the lower tier divisions. I don't know how Cup is going to go yet, but in Xfinity and trucks and K&N maybe, there's going to have to be some major changes for this to really make sense for everybody to work out. Where that comes from, I can't exactly tell you. I mean, they're talking about composite bodies, but doing that in ARCA, that wasn't as big of a savings as what it initially had panned out to be.
Yeah.
So that really didn't end up working itself out. Spec motors have been pushed around a little here and there, but the manufacturers have pushed hard back against that. So there's no surefire answer. It just somehow when you're spending $1 million and only making $10,000, something has to bridge that gap a lot closer for this to really work out and draw more attention, draw more people, more owners in.
Sherwin, it's interesting. We've talked about this before on the podcast, but since we have Brian here today, I think it was Brad who had said, because owning his team in trucks, that he said that I think on the Marty and McGee podcast when he was on there at one point, and really
either theirs or Nate Ryan.
Yeah, and really opened my eyes to the Truck Series when he said, owning a Truck Series team, a competitive, I should say, a championship team, has to be a hobby for somebody. Meaning, you can't go in wanting to make money off of this. It has to be something that you're passionate about and that you enjoy and that you have the money to do, because you're going to lose $2 million every year on a championship team, which that's a lot of money.
That's right.
Yeah. So how often is a guy going to want to spend that kind of money?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, if you like to have, you're out here racing your own car and you're making money and you've got things going on, how often is a guy? We're really lucky to have guys like Kyle Busch and my brother to support the Truck Series, because if they didn't, a normal businessman is not going to be that patient with his team and say, "Hey, this isn't working out. Look what happened to Red Horse."
Yep.
That guy was a top CEO of Mobil. That's where Red Horse came from. So he was from Mobil Oil. Well, he tried this thing for 6-7 years, and it just isn't working. So he even said, "I was like building a bridge to nowhere."
That
doesn't sound good. So how does that attract another former CEO from another former company of saying, "Hey, I want to start a race team. What's it going to take?" Well, if he doesn't have that passion of racing, that he's willing to waste an extra $1 million of his own money a year, if he feels like that's a waste, then how are you going to attract that kind of guy?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I totally agree, and this is why I've been awfully vocal, both like in person and on Twitter and stuff, about what Brad and what Kyle are doing in the Truck Series, and not being as concerned when Kyle drives his own truck or Brad drives his own truck, or when Joey's in the truck, or you put Ryan Blaney after he's already established himself in the truck. It's like, these guys are, it's not just the truck. It's not just what that one truck is doing and what the finish is going to be and what the purse is going to be. Like, if you really want to develop like NASCAR people, because you've got a team of 10 or 15 people that are at the racetrack doing things that at the truck level, obviously they aspire to get to Cup. You have a crew chief, you have a car chief, you have a car engineer, you got 6 guys over the wall, you got a driver, and you probably have a couple other people that are just doing things that we're not aware of.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't develop those people to get to the next step, it's like you and me in our roles, in our professional lives. Like, you want to, like, what's the next step? I got to get developed to get to the next step.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if they're not willing to take those losses as an investment in the sport because they love the sport and they know what they have to do in order to be funded. Like, I don't understand the criticism. I just don't get it. Yeah, Kyle Busch is going to stink up a truck race once every 6 races. Do you understand why he's doing it?
Yep, no, that's for sure. It's, I sometimes I don't like it, and sometimes I understand it. Sometimes I don't understand where are we developing some of these people to go, because there's only so much room. But yeah. I mean, if Kyle's not there, maybe his truck team doesn't survive and he can't make it work, and maybe that's his business model, and that's fine. Brad's not currently doing that, but he has a different business model than Kyle does, and that's fine. I don't like when Kyle goes there and dominates. I don't think anybody likes that.
Agreed.
I think he does, maybe. I guess that's about the only guy that does. It's just going to be part of it. I mean, how are you going to stop? One thing I don't like is saying that we have to limit people from racing. I don't like that. Racing has always been this open community where you want to go race. If you build a car and you show up to a racetrack, you get to race. There is no, we shut everybody out. And that's the one thing I didn't like about charters and NASCAR. They did leave 4 open spots, so there still is kind of that deal. But if Brian Keselowski tomorrow wanted to go cup racing, am I allowed to do that? And the answer right now is yes, I'm allowed to do that. Well, I don't want to eliminate guys like Kyle Busch from saying you're not allowed to go race at Berlin in a late model. You're not allowed to go to the Milk Bowl in Vermont or whatever. That's not fair. That's not really an open type deal, and I kind of don't like that. So this isn't supposed to be football. This isn't supposed to be baseball. I get that all the time. Everybody says, well, in baseball they don't. Okay, but this isn't baseball. This is racing. If you want baseball, go watch baseball.
100%.
100%.
Right, we got to head out west.
Yes, sir.
We got to get to Napa Valley.
Well, yeah. Let's get out there. Let's see. We've got a couple more questions. Let's see if we can fit 1 or 2 in here. Here's a good one. Mick Rose at GoDucks42_Mick. Do you think that social media backlash has made drivers weary of showing their true personality? I think that's an interesting one there. If you can comment on social media and the drivers.
Obviously, yeah, that hurts. I mean, if you say something, boy, and anybody, it doesn't matter who you are. I don't care if you're a political person or if you're a race car driver or a singer these days. It doesn't. If you say something the wrong way and it offends somebody, all of a sudden now you have to apologize and you've pissed off half your fan base. It's getting kind of crazy that social media is dictating what everybody does. So yeah, people are definitely going to kind of sit back and maybe double check and double think, or just not even be involved in social media at all if they have to constantly watch absolutely everything they say. Mm-hmm. And that's going to take away their personality, because, some people, you might not always agree with them, but that's their personality. And if we're always against everything they say, it's going to take away from that. So absolutely, I think it's detracted from it.
It's interesting, Sherwin. I know you and I both follow a lot of comedians too, and that's one of the big stickler points with them right now is people who go back and apologize. Oh, I have to say sorry for this, sorry for that, and it's something that has really, in the comedy world, that one of the other tangents that I follow. It's a big thing right now is them encouraging each other. Don't go back and apologize. You don't owe it to anybody. You said that in a certain context. And you don't have to.
A joke's a joke.
Yeah. So interesting. I had said it before. Craig Smolders at Shoots_Smolders. Here's a fun one. Would you rather see a cowboy hat caution at a blah point of the race or with 20 to go?
I am what I would call a racing purist. Okay, so what that means is I like racing. I don't care if the guy takes off and leads 100 laps. Or if they're racing side by side. Racing is racing. If that guy takes off, then you know what? They worked hard and they deserved it. So I don't like any kind of cautions that feel a little bit fake. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, I don't like stage cautions. I'm not a fan of stages whatsoever. That's what they want to try and they want to do some stuff. Fine, that might be different in a year or so, but I'm not a fan of just throwing a caution because we want a competition caution and close everybody up. It doesn't feel right to me. I'm a racing purist. I want to see a guy go out and if they finish the race in the last 150 lap green flag run, and they've had to make 2 green flag pit stops, and the guy takes off and laps half the field, so be it. That's the way it goes. So,
do you think you have to balance?
Maybe not everybody likes it that way. That's fine, but that's kind of how I grew up. That's what I feel like is racing.
Yeah. Do you think you have to balance that with the entertainment aspect? And I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate here because I don't disagree with what you're saying necessarily, but being a sport that relies on fans watching him, relies on some amount of drama, and obviously with these stages, it's kind of manufactured. Do you think there is a some tug and pull on both sides of that? That there needs to be an entertainment aspect to this. Is that the right way to do it? Is there other ways to do it, or do we not need to see that? And just let the races race.
Well, I mean, I felt like racing got popular without having to do that. So, why did we want to steer away from that kind of platform? Did we really need to make it more exciting? Because what group decided that it wasn't exciting that they weren't going to watch? And who decided that's what they decided? Because if one person gets on social media and says, well, that was a boring race, so I'm never going to watch again, does that mean 10,000 people think that? Or does that only mean that one person thinks that?
Yeah.
What's the limit, And if we're going to listen to the loudest voice, we're always going to listen to the loudest voice that doesn't like anything. So it's because those are always the loudest people. The people that liked it aren't going to be that loud. That's just not going to work that way. So are we always fixing it for one group of people? And sometimes it feels that way. Yeah. But to NASCAR's credit, when this whole stage thing come down, I didn't like it. I didn't like anything to do with it. Then I thought about it for a second. I said, you know what? What would have people said back in the 50s when NBA changed the way that they did their quarters? Or what would have said when NHL in the 20s decided that the periods were only going to be 20 minutes long instead of a 60-minute straight-through game or something. I don't even know that's exactly how they did it. I'm just saying, what would people have said now? In NASCAR in 60 years, if we had stages for the next 60 years, would people in 60 years say, man, I really wish we went back to the old way of doing it? There wouldn't have been an old way of doing it. 60 years ago is old. So I don't particularly like it, but it is what it is at this point. That's what we have, so that's what people are going to work off of.
Yeah, 3-point line in 83, college football overtime in 97. I mean,
yeah.
There's
things change, right?
Yeah,
everything always changes.
Things change.
Did you see the new deal that they're doing? Ice Cube is doing a 3-on-3 challenge, and they're going to have a 4-point spot.
I heard.
Different.
Yes,
is everybody going to complain about
this? Actually,
can I draft Steph Curry? For my
and
team.
What's the other dude? What's 3-point shooter 2's name? Klay Thompson.
Oh, Klay Thompson.
Let me get some Klay Thompson up in this.
Kyle Korver and
Durant too.
Yeah, hell of a 3-point shooter, right?
Yeah. Well, we know a little bit of basketball. We didn't
look at that.
Hey, how about us?
At PTM, exactly. We pay attention to the Hawks, which means we know a little bit.
Yeah. Well, it's time to gas it up. We are going out to road course racing. It's that time. Beating and banging, Napa Valley, wine country, doing our thing. So, Brian, I mean, other than going left and right, maybe tell us some of the things maybe people don't realize that's so different in this road course race. And I shouldn't even say left and right only, left, right, up, and down. But what are some other aspects?
Sonoma's a pretty interesting place, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sonoma's a pretty cool place. You go up, down, turn around, come back the other way, and have hard turns. And, you drive half off the racetrack, almost hit a wall, and back onto the racetrack again. 180-degree turns, and it's a very interesting racetrack. My dad actually raced there a few times when they had Truck Series races out there in the 90s, so he always thought it was a pretty neat place. But I'll tell you one thing people probably don't understand about road course racing is the absolute hardest on equipment, front to back and all around on race cars. It is so hard on that stuff that you just about throw everything away after the race. Nothing's any good anymore because it's that difficult on it. So a couple years ago, Casey Mears broke the whole snout off the rear end housing. The hub and the wheel and everything went flying off of it just from hitting curbs and things like that. And boy, those guys are tough on their equipment. And drive shafts, gears, transmissions, it is extremely hard on that, not to mention brakes and things like that. So it is definitely by far one of the hardest racetracks on the race car there is.
When they crest the hill and they take turn 2, which is a off-camber right-hand turn, and if you hit it right, the right side of the car is almost 18 to 24 inches in the air.
Yeah.
And you're like, how in the hell are they able to do that for 2 hours?
Every lap.
And not destroy that car?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whether it's axle, whether it's suspension pieces, anything. Like, I'm just absolutely amazed that that's like the way. It's like, okay, well, we got to de-weight the right side so we can make the left side turn. And we do that by snapping into this bumper. It's like hitting a curb, like an actual curb, and popping the thing up 2 feet in the air. I just can't believe they're able to do that. It's amazing.
Yeah, so I think Brian has answered your rhetorical question there by saying, actually, it tears it into pieces.
Actually, the car is destroyed when we're done. So
it tears everything in. I don't know how you so NASCAR grids all the cars, as far as like the body work and everything. And how are you supposed to bring a car to the racetrack and run over curbs like they do and expect to meet a 0 tolerance or a 60,000 tolerance template?
Yeah.
When you're constantly running off the racetrack into curbs and all that kind of stuff. So that's interesting. Obviously, they probably give them a little bit more leeway at places like that. Obviously, they're not waiting for you to cut half the body off the car, but it's very harsh on equipment, that's for sure.
So that's a really good point you just made, is that perhaps the rules are relaxed. I would think that as a team, you wouldn't bring nearly as many soft suspension parts. They would be a lot more rigid, and you would rely on shocks and the innate suspension components of the tire to help you. And you would want to keep the body more centered over the top of the car, so you would bring much more rigid suspension parts to a road course race. But, I mean, I don't know. We're not on a team.
Yeah.
There's only so much you can do because, I mean, there's a certain design that we have to stay within. So it's not like you're going to bring these super, super lightweight parts, but you also don't want to go with something so heavy that it hurts the performance of the car too. So there's always going to be that kind of back and forth of what's going to make it for a whole race and what's going to hurt the performance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so to get super nerdy real quick, maybe just a 20-second response. When you're dealing with putting lead, or what they call lead now, we know is something that's obviously much heavier than lead that they're using to counterweight and put in rails on oval tracks. Are road courses a place where you can put a little bit more weight into the chassis, a little more stiffness in both directions, because you don't really need one part of the car to be weighted so heavily?
Yes and no. The quick answer to that is low, light, and left was always the short track way of doing things. You wanted everything as low as you could get, as light as you can get, and as far left as you can get.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
on road courses, it's the other way. You want it to be the right, but you still want it low and you still want it light. So, but it's going to the right instead.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
That's the shortest way to answer that.
Sure.
Yeah. Sherwin, time to do some picks. Let's do some picks.
All right.
There he is. Excellent. So, picks for today. Brian, how about you lead us off? Do you have a pick for the road course racing today?
It's probably going to be the most easiest thing to say. I'm going to have to go with AJ Allmendinger. I mean, the guy's a road course guy, and that team has always run good on the road courses when the Australian was running for him, Why can't I think of his freaking name?
Ambrose, Marcus Ambrose.
Yeah, I'm going to go with AJ Allmendinger.
Cool. We haven't seen the Dinger get to win yet at Sonoma. I think a lot of people would appreciate that, especially since he's from San Jose.
That'd be real cool. Yeah, that'd be real cool. Sherwin, who gets to pick this time? I know that, by the way, PTM beat the Lap Traffic Boys this week.
Oh, yeah, we did.
We're going to celebrate that a little bit.
Well, you got a third with Joey Logano.
Yes, sir.
And I got an 11th with a super dark horse Michigan pick Mr. Eric Jones.
Yeah.
Recovered from a loose wheel to finish 11th. So that's pretty good.
I mean, that's proud right there. You can be
13th,
proud of that.
Excuse me, 13th.
You can be proud of that pick right there.
Yeah.
I am. So I'm going to pick, and I'm playing favorites here now.
Spitballing.
Picking Brad, buddy. got his brother, his older brother on here. I will pick the younger.
He's had some really good runs at Watkins
He has had some good runs at the road courses. Brian, what do you think about younger brother taking it here at Sonoma?
I'd like to say, because I'm his brother and I want him to run well, I'd like to say that's a good pick. Unfortunately, he does not run worth a darn at Sonoma. So, boy, they're going to have to show me a lot more and be more competitive at Sonoma. Maybe a top 10 finish would be in good shape for him. If he could get a top 10 there, I think they'd like to get out of there with that and kind of go on to the next one.
Yeah, usually I do some research.
Okay.
This time I just kind of, tried to butter up my guest here.
Yeah, well, I mean,
So, Sherwin.
Not all of our picks are designed to win some kind of contest.
Yeah.
A lot of them are just designed to create good content, whether it's this week or next. So I'm going to say that JGR finally gets their win.
Oh, wow. And it takes a road course to do it.
And it takes a road course to do it. I think
and I don't know who you're going to pick
I'm
either.
going to have to bet that Kyle Busch doesn't lose his temper.
Okay.
And recalls his road racing skills.
Okay.
So I'm going to pick the 18 car to win this week.
Wow. It's one of those, I want to pick JGR every week, but I almost don't want to pick him till they prove that they can win yet this year, which is weird to say after last year. Is almost pick one to win.
Well, what they say at Sonoma is that it is the single track where driver input has the most impact.
Mm-hmm.
Martinsville would be the oval that would fall in that category, but overall, the driver has the most impact at Sonoma.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to pick Kyle Busch.
All right. Before we drop it out here or head on out, Brian, you had a cool story about in the pre-show that we were talking about Week 17 in football last year and an experience you had to have. You care to share that with us?
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, being from Detroit, me and my brother have always been Detroit Lions fans. So
yeah.
Towards the end of last year, they actually started playing pretty good, and they looked like they were going to go somewhere. So, obviously Brad with the Ford connection and the Fords own the Lions, he had an opportunity towards the end of the year to go up there and do some different stuff, as far as dealing with Ford and Penske and all that. But he's like, you know what? We're going to get tickets to the Lions game, and we're going to go there and watch. So not only did we get to go there, about 3 or 4 of us got to fly up there for the day, but we got field passes. We got to go down on the field for all the pre-game ceremonies and all that. And then right before the game, then we went up to the GM, who is Bob Quinn. We got to go up to his suite and stay there with his family for the game, which is really, really cool. I never got a chance to go there. We've sat in the grandstands there before, but never got a chance to do all that. And the on-field stuff was really, really cool. Especially, I used to play football when I was a kid. And not that I was ever good enough to be in the NFL or anything like that, but it was just always interesting to me to be on the field and see them guys. And holy crap, those guys are huge. I never. Do you think they're big on TV? Those guys are huge in person. Jesus Christ! I'm kind of glad I don't play football now. But, it was probably it was one of the coolest experiences to have. So that was really cool. I get the chance to go with him and go do that. Even though we lost, it's just the way it is. But we're always going to be Detroit fans because that's where we grew up. So it's unfortunate you tell somebody you're a Detroit Lions fan, they want to laugh at you. But hey, man, you're going to be a home team fan, right? You got to root for the home team.
That's exactly right.
You are in the same vein as we are. Being Atlanta fans, we have had to own a lot of different criticisms,
especially as of late.
Yeah, but what I will say is, to your point about being on the field and being around some of these ballers, Rusty and I got to be on the field before a Georgia Tech football game, a college football game.
It's funny, Sherwin. I was just thinking about that
3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah,
and
just thinking about that.
We looked at the guy's number and recognized his name. We knew he was a defensive back, and it was like that guy's.
He's a monster,
taller and bigger and.
Yeah,
clearly faster. Like, obviously, I mean, like, you know, I mean, you're 6'2", I'm 5'11". Like, we're not tiny.
Yeah,
but these guys, you know,
yeah, that's the same thing I said
backs.
too. I'm 6'0" and like 275 pounds. I'm not a small guy, not at all. And these guys just made me look like nothing. Like,
yeah.
Man, I don't think I would have made it.
Yeah, I know I wouldn't have made it as a footballer. For sure.
No kidding. So, that's a cool story and a great story. And from what you're telling us earlier, it was kind of sitting around with your brother at his place, and he's like, "Hey, let's go up to Detroit this weekend." And then boom, all this stuff happens, and you're on the plane and all that. That's so cool. What a great experience.
Yeah, it's nice that he has that opportunity to do that kind of stuff. You know, I mean, he kind of made it work for other things that he had to do for Ford and Penske and whatnot, and had meetings, and he kind of played it off like, well, I got to do all this other stuff. I'm pretty sure we just went up there to go watch the football game. So it was pretty dang cool.
I love it.
As a guy that doesn't have a lot of money, don't get an opportunity to do that kind of stuff a lot. It was really neat to get a chance to do that. Plus, you know, me and Brad didn't always get along when we were kids, but we were always Detroit Lions fans.
Oh,
absolutely,
that's
always
cool.
So
very cool.
It was really neat that, you know, as we're older, we get a chance to go and do that kind of stuff.
That's great. So we're going to close out here with our closeout as every week. It's Strange with Stang, Ashley J. Stang, owner of a race team. She sends us a off-the-wall question every week. We never know what we're going to get. We had some crazy stuff the last few weeks. This one, I like this one. I call this one the Hatfields and McCoys questions.
Hell yeah.
Do you know? Can you remember like a beef that you got into, or something like that you can't even remember why you were in that beef with somebody? You just know that you know they owe you one or you owe them one or something like that, and neither party's going to give in, and so you're both looking to retaliate. Any sort of Hatfield McCoy story that you know?
Well, myself as a driver, yes, but I remember exactly why I got into it. I will never forget that. So, a guy I late model raced with in Toledo, Ohio, he spun me out really, really early in my career for no particular reason. I just felt like he flat dumped me. So a couple of years later, I actually won the track championship at that track, and we had gotten together during that year. And I just remember losing my mind when we got together because I was the one that ended up getting spun out again. And I've never done anything like I did that day. I yelled so loud, I'm pretty sure they could hear me up in the grandstand. So, yeah, it was interesting. As far as family-wise, my dad one time got wrecked leading the race in Xenia, Ohio. And a guy that he was coming up with, his name is Mark Gibson. It's actually Tony Gibson's brother.
Oh, wow, okay.
He come up at the same time my dad did to the ARCA ranks. Well, he's going to win his first race, and Jerry Churchill spun him out, another guy that had run ARCA. Well, my dad had it. That wasn't it, because this guy spun him out too. So, checkered flag, he gets the checkered flag, and he comes around for his cool-down lap. My dad fires his car up and T-bones him into the front stretch wall. And ensued the biggest brawl you've ever seen in a racetrack in your life. Everybody was fighting. In the grandstands, every pit crew was fighting. I mean, it was the biggest brawl I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, that's that old Bob sling some knuckle sandwiches.
He didn't even get a chance to get out of the car to do it. His car got engulfed with people trying to get to the other guy. So he never even got a chance to get in and out of the car and do anything about it.
Oh, that's fantastic.
They ended up having a police escort the Churchill out of the whole racetrack because I thought the fans were going to kill him too. It was a mess.
Oh man,
awesome. That was like our Days of Thunder story before Days of Thunder ever really came out.
Yeah,
it sounds like Bowman Gray on a Friday night.
Yeah, right. The local track here,
or Winder Barrow.
Winder Barrow, that's the one. Yeah, Winder Barrow for sure. On that bombshell, Brian, let's have you close us out. Tell people where they can find you and what you're up to.
Well, obviously, just like you guys kind of found me, I'm on Twitter a good bit, and you know that's about the only social media thing that I really use anymore because it's something I like to be able to control a little better. But that's the best way to find me. And then I'm always in Mooresville. I'm actually getting ready to go to Iowa with a truck team this weekend and help them out for a little bit. But mostly I'm going to be around the shop in Mooresville and working away on race cars and still doing what I love to do.
That's awesome, man.
Awesome.
We can't thank you enough for being on the show. We're going to start closing it out here. Y'all know where to find us. Yeah.
Where can they find you, Rusty?
Well, they can find me at Tailgate Mayor on the old Twitter box there in Sherwin.
At Pregame Engineer, and you can find us as an entity at PETM Podcast and all the places.
All the
Facebook,
places.
Instagram, Twitter, we're in all those spots. Basically, you just search PETM Podcast or PETM Racing Podcast, and you're going to find it.
Yep, you're going to see it happen. So we're trying to figure out how to bring y'all something next week. I'm doing some crazy international travel. Sherwin's doing some travel. We're all over the place. We're going to find some way to bring you some NASCAR content next week. And so with that, we'll talk to y'all next week. Thank you so much for joining. We'll talk to y'all later. Thumbs up.
Well, Brian, if you hadn't hung up yet, we really appreciate you hanging out with us tonight.
Hey, man, not a problem at all.
Hey, yeah, man, this was an absolute blast. We hope we didn't offend you or anything like that, and would love to have you on again sometime. It's it's just so much fun hanging out and talking with somebody that knows what they're talking about, as opposed to just sitting here talking to Sherwin all the time. We don't know what we're doing.
Yeah, man, not a problem at all. I enjoyed it.
All
Appreciate
right.
it.
We'll catch you later. We'll tweet at you and all that sort of stuff. It's like I said, it's been awesome. Always appreciate anybody who decides to come on this whole ragtag deal.
Sure.
So
next time I'm up in North Carolina, I may give you a call and see if I can't come by and see what you're doing, whatever it is you can actually share with the public.
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Almost pretty much anything I can share with the public. So that's pretty good.
Cool.
So I appreciate it, guys.
All right,
We'll see
man.
ya.
You take care.
Thank you, Brian.
Appreciate you. See ya.
Okay.
Bye. All right, y'all. And that closes us out. Thank y'all so much for joining. I've seen, the PETM posse was on fire tonight on the chat. Thank you so much. Larson wins again. So did he win, Mick? Like are you confirming that he won again? Is that what you're saying? Or are you?
Oh, no, he definitely is. He's a dirt track, junkie. If Larson raced tonight, he won again. That's what that means.
Oh, wow. So, Ashley,
Four wins
he won.
And a cup
Unbelievable.
race.
Unbelievable.
And so people were bitching on Twitter at those the bump and run folks.
Mm-hmm.
Were catching a ration of shit that, Kyle's just in a fast car.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why he's winning. It's like, are you outside your mind?
Yeah.
This kid is on fire.
Fire.
He wins Thursday night in a sprint car. He wins Sunday afternoon in a cup car. He wins Monday night in a sprint car. He wins Tuesday night in a sprint car. Kiss my rebel, you know what? This kid can race.
So we're not recording
He's
audio
a
here,
rock star.
but we are recording on the YouTube, and Ashley has gotten onto us for not answering the question.
We ran out of time. We can answer now, though.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, I was going to tell a story.
Go ahead.
We can go this back and forth. This is the fraternity days. I told her this. I said I thought of a story we could tell.
Okay.
That would fit. Because I was like, I don't have any Venn diagram overlap with whatever that is that you presented to us, because I don't hold that level of grudge or have that level of revenge in my heart. But I remember there was some guys in the fraternity that got super deep into pranking and or retaliation. So
Okay.
I don't know if you remember this or not, because, like I said, the timetable may not fit for you.
Okay.
But Whaley and Evan and Gene and Melton were all involved in some transcendental war. And there was a bunch of bad shit that went down. Gene killed all Evan's fish. and Evan erased his computer. Like, that kind of shit. Like, that happened. And at some point in the process of this whole thing, somebody put dog shit in a bag in Melton's room in 101 when he was a single. So we were older. That's why I was thinking you was already there.
I was.
And, like, his room smelled like shit for, like, 6 months because he didn't know why. Like, he kept cleaning and cleaning and cleaning until somebody told him, hey, man, there's a bag of shit behind your couch.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Like, I mean, it got that bad. I'm glad we never got into that stuff.
Oh, man. That's a good rivalry. Killed his goldfish. Stuck a bag of crap in his room. What was the other one?
Evan erased Gene's
his computer. Now, y'all, we're talking about in college. And,
in
this
2001.
This is
like,
devastating.
Your whole life is on, and he erased his hard drive.
Oh, I'm gonna die. Showing the Zima sucks ass.
It does, doesn't it?
It's terrible.
It's kind of fun. Needs some Jolly Ranchers,
man.
really.
Y'all, that was great story.
It needs to be ice cold. The problem is yours is not cold anymore.
True. And I've got my laptop fan pointed right at it just to warm it up good.
It up.
Good and warm.
Just heating it up. You can pour it out. I won't be offended.
All right, y'all, we're going to end it here. Thank you for joining. That was really good.
Tears.
That was good. All right. Well, thank you for joining, everybody. How about Brian Keselowski? What a great guy. What a great storyteller. What a great guest. Everything.
Yeah. He was,
thank you.
I mean, no
Brian
no
for joining
hiccups. Like, the dude was,
straight gangsta.
We didn't
doing his thing.
Even if we had wanted to edit what he was saying, we wouldn't have to.
Yep.
Unlike previous guests. Like, he's very in the moment. He's very present.
Yeah.
And that's good. That's awesome.
All right, y'all. See you later. Erased his computer. Killed his fish.
Erased his crap. Fish were killed. Dog shit was put behind the couch.
We'll talk to y'all next week.
God.
See ya.